So if you haven't noticed, it's already November. And with that comes colder temperatures that winter's going to bring us all. And along with those colder temperatures comes stress on the power grid, stress on all sorts of resources. Snowstorms, ice storms, accumulating ice on trees, houses, and power lines can cause power outages. Just like what we saw in Texas in 2021, where almost the entire state lost their grid power. We were just an inch away from a total grid shutdown for the entire state of Texas. And that says something because Texas doesn't get those type of temperatures, but that's what we prepare for. We don't prepare for the normal stuff. We prepare for the stuff that we don't expect to happen. So in this video, let's break down what you need to do to be prepared for anything that this winter may throw at you. Well, hey guys, welcome back. I'm Matt with BAAM Ranch, and on this channel we talk about helping you live the life you love living through preparedness-based homesteading. So in this video, let's break this down into 3 different categories, with the first being making sure that our homes are actually ready for winter. Let's keep the cold out and the heat in, so that if something goes wrong for a short period of time, we don't run into too many problems. Or even if it is a semi-extended period of time, how can we bolster our home's defense against the cold weather? The second category is, what if things do fail? What are our backup options? How do we keep our pipes from freezing? If they do freeze, what happens? Backup power, those sorts of things. And the third is going to be assembling a kit. So if it does get really bad outside, it comes a blizzard or something bad and we have to leave and be in our vehicle, how do we make sure that we stay safe during all of that? I'm in the process of editing right now, and I thought I'd jump in here right quick. I'm going to include some links to generators and some heaters and a couple other items in Amazon in the description and the comments below. If you click my link to buy that stuff, I'll make like 1 to 3% off of that. At the end of the month, it buys us a couple of cups of coffee, but it is a way to kind of support the channel, and we'll get credit for it as long as you use our link to go to Amazon, no matter what you buy, even if it's not something that I listed. And for those of you that have done it in the past, hey, thanks. Now back to the video. So let's just start with the basics on getting your home ready. It's obvious, but often overlooked, that we need to make sure that we've closed our house off from all the drafts. All that dust that winds up in your house had to come from somewhere, and a good portion of it came from outside. So let's see what we can do to stop that from happening. Go around, check all of your window sills, all of your doors. Sliding glass doors are really popular right now, and those are a common place for air leaks to happen. Rolled up towels, simply placed against the baseboard of the door. Plastic used to cover the windows during the wintertime. Insulation on water lines that are exposed. Outside faucet covers. And believe it or not, even the wall outlets on your north-facing walls of your home can allow drafts to come through. If you don't believe me, wait till there's a good cool front come through, and then hold a match or a lighter or some type of incense that makes smoke up next to those, and you'll see the smoke move as the wind blows and lets air come in those light switches. We're going to use this same method to go around and test all of our window sills and doors and make sure that they're sealed appropriately as well. It'll give us a quick, easy indication of something that we need to put some more attention to. In the summertime, we spend a lot of energy making sure the sunlight doesn't get in because it heats up the house. But simply opening your curtains or buying some sheer curtains that allow the sunlight to come through can go a long ways in helping reducing your heat bill. Have your chimney inspected if you have a fireplace, and have firewood on hand. Even though most homes built today just have fireplaces that serve a decorative purpose, you can still get quite a bit of heat from them as long as you manage the wood that you're burning correctly. Things like filters for your central heat and air unit. Clogged filters really reduce the efficiency of how well your central unit can heat your home. So go ahead and change out that filter and keep it changed out, not just for the winter, but that's something you need to be doing every 1 to 3 months anyway. For just a temporary solution, simple blue painter's tape that won't harm the paint or the finish on your windowsills can serve the purpose for blocking out the cold from entering your house for a short term. Go outside, take a look around. Do you have trees that overhang your roof that can get overloaded with weight of snow and ice? That's something we need to take care of now before it's too late. What about something that's rubbing on a power line? A few pounds of ice or snow on that line or on those tree limbs can really cause havoc if it starts to build up. So now let's talk about when the power goes out. One of the most important things we're going to need is light. Yes, flashlights are great, but I really encourage you to get a headlamp and, little rechargeable work lights or camping style lanterns that are rechargeable as well. Traditional oil lamp hurricane lanterns provide a great amount of light, and they provide a certain amount of ambiance to the area as well. Simple power banks like ones from Anker and other places like that, and an assortment of cords that can charge all of the different devices you have, can keep your phone up and going, keep up to date on all the news and everything else that might be going on. Things like police scanners and battery powered or hand crank powered radios can do a lot to help you keep up with what's going on in the world around you, locally and regionally as well. Now then, what about electricity? We need some way to power our refrigerators, our freezers. Let's keep our food from ruining. If possible, it'd be nice if you have a central heat and air unit to have a generator that's big enough to power those, although it's not 100% necessary. Remember, there's plenty of alternative ways to heat our home without electricity that we'll discuss in just a moment. But having some kind of generator, and when I say generator, I mean a fuel-powered generator, preferably one of the inverter style generators that are super quiet to be able to run the electricity in your home is worth its weight in gold. Yes, we can get by with a minimal generator that'll just run our refrigerators and freezers and a couple of stand-up corner lamps and desk lamps and stuff. But it's really nice to have one that can also do all of that while making a pot of coffee or throwing something in the air fryer, even if we're not running our full 220 volt stove. But being able to run the microwave and things like that is really nice. I've got a Champion generator that does all of that, and I really do enjoy it. We also have a smaller Honda generator. It's just a 2,000 watt suitcase generator that does just fine with keeping the refrigerator and freezer running. Now then, remember, you're only going to run those for a few hours at a time, enough to get it cooled back off, and then shut it off to conserve fuel. Given the event that we don't know how long the event will last, it's not going to be a bad idea to conserve as much fuel as possible. So I recommend that you start out with one that's powered by preferably a dual fuel that'll run off of gasoline and propane. As far as the gasoline goes, I've had videos in the past where we've discussed this. We have 12 5-gallon cans of gasoline labeled 1 through 12. At the beginning of the month, we take one can, we dump it in the pickup, and we refill it. That gives us 60 gallons of gas available at any time. And there's not really a whole lot of situations that won't get us through. I do stabilize that gas with Pri-G fuel stabilizer, and I've never had anything go bad. You can use Sta-Bil or Seafoam, all of that stuff, and it kind of works, but nothing matches the ability of Pri-G to be able to stabilize that fuel. And as far as your propane goes, just store it and accordingly the same way you would with the gasoline. Same amounts. You'll have to do some experimentation because run times on propane and output is actually a little bit lower than gasoline, but propane will store indefinitely. As long as that propane bottle hasn't rusted all the way through and the propane leaked out, your propane's going to be good. Now, as far as backup heat for the wintertime, I really like two different options on this, aside from a fireplace, which we'll touch on here in a moment. One is propane, and the second is kerosene. Our primary backup heat is based off of the buddy line of heaters, the little buddies and the big buddies. We have two of the regular buddy heaters and one of the big buddy heaters that can run off of an adapter hose to go off the same line as the same tanks as your propane grill, or the little 1 pound camp stove bottles. And that's nice because once you get into that ecosystem of using those 1 pound camping bottles, it opens up everything else as far as camp stoves and camp lights and everything else that, exists within that ecosystem. Torches, all sorts of stuff. So I really do recommend that you get something that can utilize those 1 pound propane bottles, just so that you can have a few more options available for other equipment that'll use the same platform. We keep about a dozen of the 1 pound bottles available at any time. And then we have several 5 pound, barbecue grill style bottles available for those as well. As a side note, the Big Buddy heater, the max output, I think, is 18,000 BTUs. That's what I use to heat my garage. I spend a lot of time in the garage, and while it doesn't get it, 75 degrees out there, it's perfectly comfortable out there. And just a shirt like this, maybe on an extra cold day, a light vest. And they seem to be pretty fuel efficient. I haven't timed it out, but being out there 2 to 4 days per week, I can get, well over a month before I start running low on a 20 pound bottle of propane. Now let's talk fireplaces. There's the traditional fireplace that you throw wooden logs into, and then there's the stove type of fireplaces. And those are broke down into two things: the ones you put logs in and pellet stoves. Pellet stoves do require electricity to work, but not much at all. It takes a tiny bit of electricity to run one of those. And on our small Honda generator, a single gallon of fuel will run that thing for 8 hours straight, nonstop. So I actually see that as a pretty viable option for a power outage, given the fact that the pellets are easy to store and just the convenience of it. My grandmother used this option whenever she was alive, and it got her through several multi-week power outages. And she lived pretty far out in the country, so power being out for 2 weeks, sometimes even longer, wasn't all that uncommon. And if you're looking at a pure sustainable mode, a traditional wood stove would be the best option. But there's no doubt that a stove, if given the option, will always do a whole lot better job of providing heat for a home than just a regular fireplace. That's not to discount the fireplace. That's all I've got. It's just a regular standard fireplace. Almost all of the heat from those is lost through the chimney, but they do provide heat. And during a power outage, it can keep your pipes from freezing, at least in that area. You are going to have to supplement that fireplace heat with other forms of heat like we've already spoke about in order to keep pipes from freezing and keep that dwelling habitable. So everything's gone crazy and you've got to get in the car and go somewhere. What are some things that you need to keep in there? Well, obviously, we need to be dressed for the occasion. We need to have on layers. Most people don't understand what layers mean. By layers, we're talking about a light, thin base layer, and then a layer to go on over that, which can be your clothes, and then a vest to go on over that, and maybe a jacket, then hat and gloves, something that you can take on and adjust and keep from sweating whenever you start working hard, and regulate your body temperature. Being able to shed or unzip those layers is probably the most important thing about dressing for winter weather. Obviously, keeping a full tank of fuel in your car. Hey, these winter storms, we know about them a week in advance now. There's no excuse for you to not have at least a half a tank of gas in your vehicle, which that's what you ought to have in the driveway condition anyhow. However, when we know we've got something coming up, you need to go ahead and fill up at minimum the day before it gets there. Good tires, fresh change of oil. If your belt's making funny noises, you need to see about getting that fixed. And we also need to assume that we're going to have some type of problem and be prepared for that as such. That requires some type of lighting, some of those little reflective triangles to put up just in case you blow out a tire or you wind up getting stuck. A fully charged cell phone and charging cables so that you can call for help if needed. I keep 2 pieces of gear in my truck year round for cold weather. I never take them out. They stay in there year round so I do not forget to put them back. One is an Italian surplus military wool blanket. It's lived in there for 15 years. The second is a full system of the military MSS modular sleep system. It has a light bag, a heavy bag, and then a Gore-Tex bivy sack that goes over all of that. And I think they're rated down to like 40 below zero. That, if you are stuck having to spend the night in your car, between those things right there, you may not be comfortable, but you're not going to be in extreme danger if you have to stay the night, in a 0-degree weather situation. Bundle up in all your stuff, hop inside of all that, and you should be good. Now then, if it's snowing, what if we get stuck in the snow? First thing you need to carry is a couple of full 1-gallon bags of non-clumping kitty litter. It's amazing how much good it can do by just throwing some kitty litter under your tires. The snow packs, turns to ice. Those of you that live up north are well aware of this. And just gets you a little bit of momentum to get you moving. Sometimes you only need 2 or 3 inches of forward movement to get that momentum to get out of that snowdrift. If you're absolutely stuck and you have to dig out, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. Get a regular digging shovel. It can be a short one. Cut the handle off if you need to. A lot of people try to use snow shovels. The problem is, a lot of times that snow becomes extremely packed and you just can't dig at it, or it gets a layer of ice over it, or maybe there's a layer of packed ice under it. Having a regular digging shovel, a pointed spade, like what you would dig in your yard with, gives you the ability to chip through that snow and that packed ice and get down in it. You'd be surprised how many times just a regular snow shovel won't penetrate that snow that's packed down into solid ice. It's also not a bad idea to have, at least a day's worth of food. You don't have to keep that in there all the time, but if you know you're going to be leaving somewhere, throw some food in there. What's left of the loaf of bread, some peanut butter, maybe some, oatmeal, and a couple bottles of water. That way, at least you'll have some food to eat and give you some energy. Once you get cold and start shivering, you're going to go through calories like crazy. Now, would it be better to have, some MREs or something like that? Of course, but it's not absolutely necessary. The can opener on your multi-tool or Swiss Army knife and some Bush's baked beans or Campbell's soup or whatever is absolutely better than nothing. And if we're honest, it's really all that's actually needed. But just some due diligence and putting some thought into this stuff beforehand can save 1,000 lives every year at minimum. If 10% of the population was ready for a winter power outage, we wouldn't have big disasters. We would have big inconveniences, because whenever you're able to see about your own needs, that also gives you the ability to help your neighbor out. So keep that in mind. And until next time, hey, you guys be safe.